First of all, بحاول أتكلم في اللغتين لو بقدر. Thank you very much for the kind introductions. And it is true. As someone who belonged to two worlds, as he mentions, my mother from Western Sudan and my father from Southern Sudan, South Sudan now. And according to the citizenship law, I am not really someone who belongs to the Republic of Sudan, but I am very much welcome to be a citizen of the Republic of South Sudan. What I'm going to say is representing my own personal view. I'm not representing any entity. I'm not denying my relations with the SPLM or the government of South Sudan, but I am here in my personal capacity. And what I'm going to say is representing my view. And also I'm going to say something different. Something different in a way that might allow us to reflect and engage in conversations. Can I have only 5 points? The first point that I'm going to talk about is how do we frame the question about the separation of South Sudan. When I read the programs, the question that we're supposed to talk about is what are the implications of the separation of Southern Sudan? This, in my view, is not the right question. And I'm going to explain why. The second point that I'm going to talk about is what are the major outstanding issues that need to be addressed between the North and the South? And how do we should approach it? The third point that I'm going to talk about is also what are the linkages between South Sudan, Darfur, South Kordofan, and Brunei. And the fourth issue is lesson from the separation of Southern Sudan, which we call it today the Republic of South Sudan. And finally, I'm going to conclude by briefly sharing with you what needs to be done. All of us, we have something to do. Let me talk about the first question. How do we frame the question about the separation of Southern Sudan? As I said, the question should not be what is the impact of the separations of Southern Sudan, rather than why the people of Southern Sudan, who are proud today to define themselves as members of the Republic of South Sudan, had opted for separations and created their own state, the Republic of South Sudan. This is, in my view, the question. The question is not what are the implications of the separation. I personally, I don't care about the implication of the separations, but I'm very much interested on helping everybody who live in the Republic of Sudan today is to answer this simple question: why these people who lived with us for so many decades, they decided to separate from Sudan. This is, in my view, the question. It's not the question of the implications. If we do so, then, if we accept that, then we begin to identify some of the ills of our own society, some of the problems that led these people to decide to separate from Sudan. And there are many. One of them, and I think nobody's going to talk about it here, the legacy of slavery and slave trades. That's one thing. Unequal representations of national governments, exclusive citizenships, absence of culture of democracy. We have to face it. We do not have a culture of democracy. We can argue on that, but I think this is one of the main points. Also, a lot of people, I've been listening to some of you who are talking throughout the morning about the NCP. The NCP should not be blamed as the sole responsible for the separations of Southern Sudan. Everyone, including other political parties, DUP, Umma Party, Communist Party, SPLM North, everybody who is part of this political platforms in the Sudan should be played. Also, the civil society as well, women groups, youth groups, students, everybody should be responsible for the failure of convincing people who live in South Sudan today to create their own independent state. This is the questions. The second point that I want to raise is what are the major outstanding issues? Yes, we know the people of South Sudan decided to separate and they created their own independent states, but there are some outstanding issues. But also I want you and everybody in this room to accept the idea that the separation of South Sudan should not be seen as a negative thing. In my view, it's a positive thing. I will tell you why. Because it came as the result of genuine grievances. If we do so, if we accept that these people decided to go because they have claims, then the future of these two countries are linked, if we accept that. But I'm going to say this to you, frankly, a lot of people who live now in the Republic of Sudan, they think the separation of South Sudan is a disappointing thing, is a bad thing, and they don't want to come to terms with that. These kind of views are not helpful in my view. It's not helpful to people who live in Sudan, it's not helpful to people who live in South Sudan, because after all, our futures are linked. But to make it workable, then we have to recognize why these people decided to go. And I think that some of these outstanding issues, I'm going to just summarize them on three. Oil revenue, the question of the oil, everybody is interested in that, the border issues, and citizenship issues. These could be the main outstanding issues. I don't care about the other things, but I think these are the important issues: the oil, the border, and the citizenships. And also we have to be mindful with the priorities. The important things, if you want to resolve the border issues and the citizenship issues, because this is my personal concern, is you have to resolve first the oil issue, the oil revenue. If we solve the oil revenue issues, we solve the border issues, we solve the citizenship issue. The NCP refusing to accept redrawing the borders, they're refusing to allow people who are Southern Sudanese, but they're living in the north, to be given citizenship. It's not because they don't like them, but because there is no agreement on the oil revenue. If we make an agreement on the oil revenue, we resolve the border issues, we resolve the citizenship issues. These are the priorities. But there are difficulties. It's not going to be easy. Why? I'm going to tell you why. We could have resolved these issues prior to the separation of Southern Sudan. South Sudan now an independent state. And these issues now, they are sovereignty issues. They are sovereignty issues. The oil issue is a sovereignty issue. Citizenship is a sovereignty issue. The border is a sovereignty issue. It's not going to be easy. People in the south, they're not going to make concessions. People in the north, they're not going to make concessions as well. So it's not going to be easy. And nobody's talking about these issues now because we have other things. And we don't have time to waste about these kind of things. Also, there is other issues that are going to complicate the possibility of solving these outstanding issues. Why? What are these issues? The rising military confrontation in the Nuba Mountain, and now in the Blue Nile, also Darfur's issue, and Abyei issues. These issues is going to make any negotiation on these outstanding issues is a difficult process. Why? I will tell you. All of us, we know there's a lot of people fought with people who live in South Sudan today, from the Blue Nile, from the Nuba Mountains, even from Darfur as well. Right? So anybody who expects the government of South Sudan to, if they decided to just ignore them, let people in Nuba Mountain to die, let the people who live in the Blue Nile to die, let people who live in Darfur to die, what is going to happen then? We betrayed them. Right? We betrayed them. Right? That's the second. If the government of South Sudan decided to support these people, so that's what we're going to call it a proxy war. So in both cases, a very difficult dilemma for the government of South Sudan. But also you have to understand, these people fought with people who live in South Sudan today. So the question that we're going to stand by and let them die. So it's going to make the relation between the North and the South is very complicated. The third issue, what are the linkages between South Sudan, Darfur, and Southern Kordofan and Blue Nile? I think the same circumstances. نفس الظروف اللي أدت لإنه جنوب السودان ولا الناس اللي عايشين في جنوب السودان يكونوا دولتهم هي نفس الظروف الموجودة في دارفور، في بلو نايل، في نوبة. So the same circumstances that exist or led to the separation of South Sudan exist in this region as well. These, in essence, are political problems. In my view, these are political problems. It's not political problems. It's a political problems. Need a political solution. I do prefer these issues to be resolved politically, not through military confrontations. Also, I will not be surprised after I guess all of us will be reading the news about what's happening in Brunei. These regions, what I mean by these regions is Darfur, Southern Kordofan, and Brunei. I will not be surprised if these regions also call for the exercise of the right of self-determination in few weeks, if not days. And mark my words, in few weeks, if not in few days. Because the same circumstances that forced people of South Sudan to separate also exist in these regions. And nobody is going to stand by and watch people in Nuba Mountains and the Blue Nile, and therefore NFBA to vehicles without any effective response. So what I personally expect, some of these regions, they're going to move from the idea of finding a solution within the Republic of Sudan to the right of exercising the right of self-determination. And this is a strong possibility. What are some of the lessons that we learned from the separation of South Sudan? The separation of South Sudan ended the war, but fails to resolve the causes of the crisis. انفصال الجنوب أدى لوقف الحرب ما حل المشكلة. لأن المشكلة قومية ومتشابكة. What needs to be done then? Just to conclude, what to be done? What needs to be done? And this is going to be an interesting idea. Sudan, in my view, is an empire. Sudan is إمبراطورية. إمبراطورية في مرحلة الاثنين. Sudan is an empire in declining. The separation of South Sudan, the ongoing conflict in Darfur, the recent military confrontations in Southern Kordofan and Blue Nile are manifestations of the declining of this empire. We don't have to deceive ourselves. This إمبراطورية اسمها السودان في مرحلة الإضمحلال. After all, Darfur used to be a kingdom. Nuba Mountain used to be a kingdom. Blue Nile used to be a sultan. They came together not through consensus, they came together by force. And for the last 50 years, we're trying to keep this empire intact, and we failed. The second point, we need a new vision. New vision is needed to confront the burden of history, what I call it. And what I mean by the burden of history, one of them is the legacy of slavery. I hope you agree with me on this, and I hope people talk about this stuff. A lot of people continue to be suffered by that legacy of slavery and slave trade in Sudan. And those who are people who live in Nuba Mountain and Blue Nile, we used to see them as disposable people. Disposable people. We always attack them. We always subject them to violence. So we need a new vision. The vision of a new Sudan, in my view, would need to be problematized. Everybody's singing the song of New Sudan, but very few know what it means. And we need to rethink the idea. We need an inclusive political project. Goes beyond the idea of a new Sudan. The idea of a new Sudan, mistakenly, a lot of people associated with the marginalized people, as if الفهم بتاع السودان الجديد حاجة مخصص للمناطق بتاعت التهميش. الزول اللي قاعد في الخرطوم اللي قاعد في الشمالية يفتكروا انه ما عنده أي علاقة بها. وبقت المسؤولية هي مسؤولية الناس الموجودين في المناطق المهمشة انهم دائما يخشوا في صراع عسكري. والنتيجة بتاعت دخولهم في صراع عسكري ضد السلطة الموت والدمار لمجتمعاتهم. وعندنا مجموعات كبيرة موجودة في الخرطوم. They're having a good time في Azon cafeteria downtown Khartoum, and they're thinking that these guys, they're going to take them to the political power one day. We need to change these views. Also, we need to develop a new political platform so that cope with the realities of the 21st century. We're living in the 21st century. Our political parties, whether Ummah or DUP or any other political parties, whether from the left or the right, continue to operate with the mentality of the Mahdist period, in which Islam and Arab identity were projected as essential ingredients of the Sudanese state. But the state is declining. The failure to address two important issues, in my view. Separation between Islam and the state. It's not separation between religion and the state. A lot of people that hide themselves about this, religion and the state. No, it's not separation between religion and the state. We have to name it between Islam and the state. The need for inclusive citizenship. We are very skillful also in waging war against the regimes, but we are too weak in organizing ourselves politically. We do not have political organizations. The NCP is powerful. It's not because they're powerful, they have the support, but they are well organized. They are well organized. And they have the ability to project their vision and mobilize people. We don't have it. The use of force cannot be successful in any political campaign without an effective political organization. And finally, the good news is that the center of making political decisions and shaping the future of Sudan is now shifted from Khartoum to Blue Nile, Southern Kordofan, and Darfur. And I expect in a few days or weeks, we will witness the birth of a new political leadership. And I hope all of you support it. A new political leadership that might change the political trajectory of Sudan. Thank you.